Alright, let me get this Ouija board out, see if I can contact the former co-host of this show. Spirits, where is Katie? Is she at Tiger King's compound?
Yes. Wieners, 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 wieners.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know. It just seemed like something they'd say.
I didn't know. I didn't watch Tiger King, so I had no reference if that was a thing. What a weird intro. This is episode 309 of IP Sofer. I am Zach Baggins. Very cool glasses.
Wow. And I'm Zach Bagans.
I refuse.
The way he pretends that his name is pronounced.
I refuse.
When we all know.
Someone said that and I was like, nope, not real.
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely not.
Yeah, so this episode, we are going to talk about, we're going to start a little mini-series of Katie making me watch Ghost Adventure specials.
Ghost Adventures, if you will.
Yeah, and the first one, for some reason, we're doing is the Tiger King episode.
Why not?
Which I feel does not seem like a good representation of this show.
So this is, yes and no. Obviously, so this episode was a Halloween special. So normally when they go, like, if this was just like any run-of-the-mill episode, they would like go to a location, they would talk to like whoever the people are for like 5 or 10 minutes of the show tops, right? And then they would do the investigation and then they leave. Because this is a special, and they've done a handful of them at this point, and this special came out in 2002, so like really the height of everything with like COVID, everybody being obsessed with the Tiger King documentary.
So, number one, this is 2020.
What did I say?
Not 2002.
Oh my god. 20, same diff. 2020, yes. So, I think that, like, a lot of the reason that they're, not surprisingly, going to this location is the notoriety of it, right? Zach claims that he watched the Tiger King documentary like everyone else, and then he saw an article. This episode is, like, okay, but I feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you did actually watch Tiger King. Because there's people from Tiger King, because, like, Tiger King happened, right? It was a real thing. There's people from Tiger King who are on the grounds at the zoo when Zach and everybody go that they talk to and interview, and they're, like, referring to things that happened in the documentary. And most of it doesn't matter, but essentially Zach is saying that he was obsessed with the documentary, and then he saw this article. There's, like, all of this stuff going on about, like, the ownership of the zoo once Joe Exotic gets arrested and goes to prison, right? So during the time that this special takes place, there's these two people who owned another exotic tiger sanctuary or whatever. They're interviewed in Tiger King. So they illegally take control over the zoo because Joe Exotic, like, pretended like he, power of attorney wrote over the land to this guy Jeff and his very, very much younger looking wife Lauren. And then there's, like, all this legal stuff behind it, and Carol Baskins of Tiger King fame was going to take back over control of the land. So Jeff wrote this article that was like, I knew that Joe had this land illegally, and it wasn't, like, whatever. He did a bunch of shady stuff. It's all crazy, right? It's fine. Carol can have the land back, and she can have the land, and she can have the spirits back with it, or whatever, the ghosts back with it too. And so that piqued Zach's interest, where he was like, does he mean there's actual spirits on the land? So they set this all up, or whatever. So this is like very much more so playing into, I think, kind of like the show of where they are. So a lot of the episode is them interviewing people about what happened on the land, like more so than normal. Like I would say like half of it is like takes place during the day of them just like talking to people, getting stories about what happened. Everything is rumor at, you know, like about what happened on the land regarding like people being murdered. Like he straight up asks people like, do you think somebody was murdered and buried here? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. To this day, there's no proof of that happening, by the way. And so like essentially more of this episode is based on the spectacle of the people and the land that they're on versus the spectacle of them like quote unquote gathering evidence. So that's how I would say this episode specifically is a lot different, and they're there over multiple days, which normally they aren't either. So it's not the best representation, but we do get a lot of moments that are like pretty quintessential.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I've seen like a couple episodes or like clips of episodes, and I was like, you know, like I expect it to be like we're locked inside overnight doing the thing, and like the first half of this is like just them talking to people, and then like Zach Baggins getting sprayed with tiger piss.
Yeah, he likes it
because it smells like popcorn.
Why not? It's pleasant, he says.
It's very weird.
He also has a foot fetish, so there's that.
Right. When does that come into play?
I'm just stating he's publicly said it.
Oh,
so.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like something that came up in like one of the episodes, and I was like, it checks out.
Well, so yeah, I mean, and I think also like, not for nothing, the claims, like, normally they'll say like, okay, well, what have you guys been seeing? And they'll say like, well, see, we've seen this, that, the other thing. And then they go and try and like gather that same evidence. There's not really a lot of evidence to be had. So I think that they really downplayed the quote unquote investigation part of it, because they did a lot of work. Like the property is huge, right? Obviously it's a tiger sanctuary. There's this entire backlot that's like just for like slaughtering the animals that come in to feed the tigers, which is vile. But they don't get a lot of evidence, obviously. And they spend all of this time like explaining this experiment that they're gonna do that kind of like in the end comes up with nothing too. So I think after the evidence gathering part of it, they were just kind of like, let's just cushion it out because this is a Halloween special, right? So yeah.
Well, so like, it's also one of those things where it was like, I also kind of understand that it was like, well, because like when I first started, I was like, oh my god, this is like 2 hours, you know, with commercial breaks or whatever, it would have been like 2 hours. And I was like, well, it makes sense, because it was like, this is probably one of the few shows on like whatever network that like could actively film during October, or, you know, or, you know, probably like August, September of 2020 for it to air in October. And then I was like, all right, well, it makes sense. They probably were like padding this out to just take up time on the channel as well, because it's. So I saw the second half of this in an ER.
Yes.
Where like I had missed, I think I saw only the parts where they were doing the actual like
investigation.
Investigation stuff, and missed most of like the setup. So I'd seen half of it already, and I'd missed all of the good stuff, like the penis pump and the weird shot of a horse pissing in a house for.
What in the... So, okay, so I watched this whenever it originally came out, right? And I, like, have... Like, this was 4 years ago at this point. I have, like, vivid memories of, like, texting you live while I was watching it. And then, like, not too long after that was like whenever you went to ER and you were like, oh my God, it's on here. And I was like, this is perfect. But
Yeah,
you did miss the best part. Yeah.
I think last year or maybe. Yeah, it was last year I went to the ER and I was like the only channel. Like, they had like, 40 channels on the TV, but it was like all daytime like talk shows and shit. And then for some reason, one of them was just playing Ghost Adventures reruns.
Well, yeah. And so I think that this is on the Travel Channel. So that's like kind of, which seems crazy because I feel like, well, Travel Channel.
I mean, look, 90 Day Fiancé is on fucking the Learning Channel, so.
Right. But I feel like Travel Channel is a channel that just is like a normal channel, which seems so weird that like this kind of thing is on it. But anyway, I've been wanting to do, specifically I want to do Demon House, which is like the very first like special that is like kind of like the roots of, but I want to obviously do that as a whole. I was obviously not here, and then I got a death illness, so I'm recovering from that. So this is about the capacity that I have at the moment is Ghost Adventures, so that's what we're doing. I'm gonna try my hardest not to cough into the mic, but
I do directly do it.
Okay, I'll actually bring it closer.
Yeah.
But it might slip in, so sorry if you're sensitive to that sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully we're gonna do more of the specials. We'll do, I think.
I'm down to do, like, I don't know how many there are. At least on Letterboxd, it's list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, counting this, and then 9 if you count Demon House.
Yeah.
So I'm down to do them all at some point, but
yeah,
I feel like I will be way more interested in the ones that are not this one, because I wanted more of them freaking themselves out in like an abandoned place, and less like them going into someone's shed while he's sleeping.
That was...
I was like, please somebody accidentally get shot.
Then they're like, okay, let's just keep investigating, and if he wakes up, I don't know.
We'll just like, hey, we're in here, hey!
So, like, and then not only that, they're fucking using a spirit box, and I was like, it's definitely gonna wake that guy up.
Caitlin, like, the entire time we were watching it was like, this is all garbage. What are these instruments? And I was like, well, technically these are, like, real instruments. I just don't necessarily believe what they're doing with them. Because, like, they kept showing the one that's, like, supposed to be showing, like, the figure that's, like, pointing to the hat. But it's, like,
SLS,
it's doing, like, a weird dance.
So, I'll talk a little bit more about, like, this episode, I feel like, could be very alienating for people if, like, number one, you don't know what Tiger King is. Number two, surprisingly, people don't know what Ghost Adventures is. I sent that picture of the shirt that Kit got me for Christmas to my friend, and she was like, who is that? And I was like, are you insane? So people don't know what Ghost Adventures aren't familiar with any of the information, so I'm not just gonna like throw jargon. I'll explain it a little bit if you're wanting to still listen to this episode. And I will say that, like, maybe I've just watched a lot more Ghost Adventures at this point, but this didn't feel as, like, don't get me wrong, there's some insane moments, but it doesn't feel as goofy as I remember it being, so like maybe I'm just like desensitized to them a little bit more.
No, I mean, I like...
But
like I said, I've seen like mostly clips, and this is like, yeah, like I said, like I don't feel like this is really like a, solid basis of what the show seems to be. Like, it's this very much feels more like a spectacle of taking advantage of like a hot thing at the moment more than anything else, like more than like what the regular show is. If that makes sense. And
like, to your point, again, perfect place to be during COVID because it's like a huge wide open space. Even though at the time, obviously, none of the people at the Tiger Farm are wearing masks, which is fine. They like make a show of like Zach. First of all, Zach Baggins is the OG mask wearer. He's been wearing masks for like a decade.
Yeah, that's because this dumbass has been in fucking abandoned moldy buildings for...
And I agree with that. Like, when you see the state of some of the I will say, he has this one mask that he does put on when they go to investigate Joe's cabin, or whatever the fuck that is, his house. That is, like, so heavy duty. It's got, like, two
the
respirators
the
on the
respirators
side.
On it.
Yeah, that one is insane to me. But yeah, it is funny because, like, when they go to meet one of the guys, he, like, walks up really silently, knocks on the door, and then fucking, like, bolts to get to the bottom of the stairs. So when the guy opens the door, he's, like, holding his hands out, like, "Sir, is it okay if I ask a few questions?" And the guy's like, "All right, I guess."
I was like, I was dying because I was like, yeah, like, I would assume everybody being interviewed would be like, I'm not wearing a fucking mask. Like, that's part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, okay, well, let's get started. So, normally when these things open, it's Zach dishing us a monologue, but, like, about just life.
He's so fucking, like, overly dramatic. It's insane.
Yes. And he's always walking, like, and they shoot video of him walking in different angles in the same, whatever. But in this, it's Zach, and he's, like, walking across the zoo, like, really dramatically, and you're seeing, like, all of these people that are from the zoo and from the documentary, like, looking at him and, like, posing. And then at the end, the guy goes, "We've been waiting on you." And Zach looks straight into the camera, very nervously. Then he delivers the intro to us, which is different than the normal intro because this is a Halloween special. But the intro is, "There are things in this world that we will never fully understand." Understand. We want answers. Answers. We have worked years to build our credibility, our reputation. Anyways.
I don't know if credibility is the right term.
Working alongside the most renowned professionals in the field, catching groundbreaking proof of the paranormal. This is our evidence. Our ghost adventures. I think that says it all there. One of the things you may be asking, Katie, why do you watch Ghost Adventures if you know what's going on, right? This is, like, pretty much the only form of reality TV that I like at all, is, like, ghost stuff, and I don't know why. I love it. I eat it up. I find their night vision cameras, like, soothing to me. Like, I love it. The thing that I love about the Ghost Adventures crew is that, like, this all started because Zach claims that he never believed in the paranormal, but then he had and I think that they go into the story behind what happened in Demon House a lot more, or maybe it's just, like, the earlier season of the show. He had a run-in with what he thinks was, like, I think a demon, right? And he's like, that changed my life, so now I'm trying to get evidence. And so it's like, they go in acting as if they're, like, the most skeptical people ever. Like, I didn't believe any of this stuff until something happened to me, but I need proof that it happened, even though I experienced it. And, like, for people who are, like, pretending to be just really skeptical of the whole situation, the slightest thing that happens, they freak the fuck out. Every single time. Listen.
Their overreactions are, like, because most of anytime I see clips online, it's always, like, just the most insane thing.
Yes.
So, like, I've only really probably seen them overreacting to shit, but it's always so funny because it's always just like a breeze rolled through here. They just are freaking the fuck out.
Yes. The way that they string together pieces of evidence that don't mean anything into an elaborate story of what's happened is really, truly amazing to me.
The thing Caitlin and I were, like, cracking up about watching it was, like, every time they would be like, And if you slow down the video and see here, you can see like a weird shape go by. And we know it wasn't an insect. They say it wasn't an insect like 30 times in this.
Yeah, my other favorite is they see glowing eyes and they hear growls on a tiger farm. It wasn't a tiger though.
Yeah.
They like really want to let us know it wasn't a tiger.
Gotta make sure, was not an animal of any kind.
And so it's really great. I love it. So essentially, he gives us the intro that tells us that this is a 2-hour special called Horror at Joe Exotic Zoo. And it's a Halloween special. Zach starts off by saying it's been a crazy year in 2022. Craziest year I've ever lived. Okay,
also,
fair.
Again, 2020.
Did I say?
You said 2022 this time.
Oh my god, guys, I don't know. There's a lot of 2s on my paper. My Z and my 2 look the same. I don't know. It's fine. I got poo brain.
It's 22Z.
Exactly. Z0 Z0. Oh no! Oh, don't say that.
The fuck
if you know,
happening? You know. No one knows.
People, my ghost girlies will know. Okay, Zach basically just like started talking about the notoriety of Tiger King. He tells the story that I told earlier about how he saw a news report where Jeff says she can have the property with all of its ghosts. That made his little mind start working. Is he talking about actual ghosts? So this is when he talks to Zach and Zach. Oh my God, Jeff. Pay attention because this is going to be tough to get through because I don't know what I'm saying. Zach he talks to Jeff and Lauren. These are the 2 who have temporary custody or whatever of the Joe Exotic Zoo right now in this time frame before handing it back over to Carol Baskins. And they're kind of just like talking about the zoo and how it's shady, right? Shady shit's happened. He straight up asks them if they believe that people have been murdered and buried there. And they say, oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely more than one. And I'm like, why do you think you know that?
I mean, I assume.
So.
I mean, like, look, if you're going to murder people, doesn't seem like a terrible place.
Seems like a good place, actually.
Them to tigers.
Right. And they had other animals too, right? There's like all of this controversy around an alligator pit. And I will say, if you don't know anything about Joe Exotic, Tiger King situation, there is really, really strong theories that Carol Baskins, who had killed her previous, her husband, and it's a little, I haven't kept up with it since then, right? It's been like fucking years or whatever. But essentially like one of her, like her first husband just like disappeared. And she's like, oh yeah, he just like left on vacation one day or something. He left her.
Sure.
And no one has heard from him since. The family doesn't know where he is. And so the speculation obviously is that she killed her husband and fed him to the tigers and or something or whatever. So that's always been one of the big theories going on with the zoo. I don't know where these more than 1, 3 or 4 other people are probably buried like situations come from. Like a lot of the shit obviously, aside from like the animal cruelty that's gone on in this kind of situation, like there's a lot of shady stuff going on anyway, so like who knows, right? But they're like, yes, definitely more than one person. These are the claims that they're saying occur at the zoo. They hear talking. They hear knocking sounds. And they get weird feelings.
Sure.
So, this is when Zach is scared by a tiger being behind him, and Jeff and Lauren are laughing at him, and then the tiger pees at him, and he likes the smell. We talked about that.
Maybe the second most insane thing in
butter
the whole
popcorn
episode.
Yeah. Sounds pleasant. This is when he interviews the woman who works in the gift shop, whose name is Militia.
Not spelled like an army militia, spelled like Felicia, but with an M or something.
Like the name Militia.
Yeah, sure.
she says that
The first person in this indoors, not masked up.
yeah, no. It is pretty funny because like when they're standing outside, like obviously they're not wearing masks because they're social distancing, right? They're standing like half apart from them. And then it just cuts to Zach standing in the gift shop with a mask on, and it just looks very funny to me. Because he's like standing pretty close to her still, so I fear.
Yeah, there's not like a lot of room in that gift shop to like socially distance.
No, so brave.
Like I
And
really I am curious if it was like a production thing where they're like, well, Zach is masked and everyone in the production is, so then we can like hear her better or whatever. Or if it was just these people were like, fuck you, we're not wearing masks.
yeah, I don't know because when COVID and like the lockdown were like very full in effect, they started doing other shows where like they were still creating shows and content, but they weren't actually going. And so I don't really recall a lot of like seeing what the situation was, if like who all wore masks. And it very well could be that like they were like, you guys are the ones that are guests on the show, so we want people to be able to see you and
Yeah.
see what you look like. And they gave them makeup very obviously and stuff like that. So it could be. I just thought it just was like something I noticed. Um, so interviews Militia. He basically, anytime he starts interviewing somebody, he asks about like, do you think it's haunted? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. Joe thought it was haunted also. He had this picture that looked like a shadow figure flying above a barn or something that he used to show everybody. They do show us a picture of that, but I don't know if that's like the actual picture, if that just was just like a recreation or whatever. Because if it was a real picture, it's very crazy looking. This is when... Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I would not put it past him either way. Just to like,
I mean...
yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like again, like I haven't seen a lot of the regular episodes, but I don't know, it's weird, like because I'll be interested to like watch the other specials solely because like I think I forget what we watched that we talked about, like maybe it was when we did like the scariest creatures or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
things. Like I know at some point we talked where I specifically asked, I was like, do you believe in ghosts or whatever?
Yeah.
And like I like this, and like I used to like watch like all of Josh Gates shows, like Expedition Unknown and Destination Unknown and all that shit,
Yeah.
where he would go like search for, specifically I really like the one where he would go search for like weird, like local to the region, like cryptid things, where it wasn't
Yeah.
specifically just Bigfoot, but would be like weird ones that like you've never heard of unless you're like from this tiny ass village in like Vietnam or some shit. And like I don't believe in any of it. I know they're not really gonna find anything, but like I don't know. I liked seeing sort of, I guess, more the travel aspect, because you're seeing places that I'm like, well, I'm never gonna be able to visit there, so it's cool to see. But also like every once in a while, like something legitimately weird and unexplained would happen.
Right.
And like I assume, like some of the ghost stuff I've seen that isn't Ghost Adventures, like, the same shit happens where like something will happen where you're like, okay, well that is kind of weird. And I'll be interested if like anything like that happens on like some of the specials on this, because that's what like I like that shit where there's like something where I'm like, all right, I don't necessarily believe this, but it is something weird happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that, like in this, like nothing like that
No.
really happens. Did Ghost Adventures do? Did they ever do like live episodes, or was that the other one of the?
I know Ghost Hunters definitely did it. I feel like maybe Ghost Adventures might have done one of their specials live, but I'm not sure.
I have like very weird memory of watching. I think it was Ghost Hunters,
They've definitely done a few
where
like
like they
live.
did like a live, and I want to say they were like like a castle in Ireland or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
That like I remember because I used to have a friend at Dayton that would like watch all these like it's like one of those weirdos that like didn't believe any of it but was like obsessed with like ancient aliens because of how like
Sure.
insane it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was that the episode was 278 where we did Scariest Monsters in America and Scariest Monsters in the World, which were terrible to be original. But then I also told paranormal
No,
stories.
I feel like it was either that or it was I can't remember if, like for some reason in my mind it was when we were doing like the demons episodes and you we watched that fucking ghost story. Is that what it's called? The one that like repeats the fucking song with the clown that it
Oh my God.
like I can't remember. I know something like that. It came up at something, and then it led us to doing like the ghost stories episode as part of something.
Yeah. So I think we definitely talked about it on that because I was thinking about that recently. I was thinking about it earlier when you said like I don't know if I necessarily like I understand the science behind what they're saying the ghost hunting equipment does. I just don't know if I believe it.
Sure.
And so that's what made me, but I don't care. I'm along for the ride every
Yeah,
time.
like it's like kind of like I said with like Destination Truth, where like I'd be like I know they're not gonna find like
The
oh
chupacabra, the
yeah
Bigfoot.
like but there would be like things, and again it's a TV show, I don't know, but like
Right.
they would show
Right.
like where like there were like there's one episode I very specifically remember where they're like hunting for a local version of like a Bigfoot or something, and they find like a legitimate full like footprint that's like this huge fucking foot, and like I remember it being a thing where they like there were like legitimate like scientific like articles written about this discovery, where I was like, oh well that's like interesting, I don't really know how to explain that, but also like it's a TV show, so who
Right.
the fuck knows, but like I don't know, I always find that stuff like interesting despite not believing it. I think it's just like a weird fun thing to watch.
Yeah, I think there have been moments too when I've genuinely thought like I feel like for everything like these men are not actors. You know what I mean? Like they are in a TV show, but like they're not actors. So I feel like there have been moments where some of the stuff like I well can immediately write off, right? Because like you're saying, like you don't like any knocking sound, you don't know where it came from because you're not there. There's so many people who are like camera people that are around that are not included in like when we're seeing like the guys' cameras and shit like that. So like you do have to obviously take it with a grain of salt because you don't know what other kind of production stuff is going on. But there have been like genuine moments where like some of my favorite moments in these shows is when somebody who is like not a character in the show, like they're not a part of the team, they're just like a regular like faceless camera person, when something will happen with them, because it's like 9 times out of 10 you don't ever hear or see from them. So if something happens with them or if they're talking directly to Zach or something, then I'm like, okay, something weird probably and unexplainable probably did happen because they're not a part of the show. They're not like doing the theatrics. So there are moments like that where you're like, okay, well, yeah, maybe some like they spend so much time doing this that there's absolutely no way that there haven't been unexplained stuff. Nothing that happens in this episode to me
No.
is unexplainable.
I just I
So
think in general it's one of those things where like I feel like I've seen them pretend they're possessed and shit
oh yeah,
so many
Zach gets
times
possessed all the time.
where like where I'm just like I feel like if I saw a different ghost hunting show I would be more likely to believe it than like these chuckleheads.
So yeah, I mean, I grew up on mostly Ghost Hunters, which obviously, don't get me wrong, it's also a TV show, right? I do feel that the original team of that, like, they have more credibility to me only because they're serious people. They like had day jobs and they were like doing this on the side just like as an interest, and they actively try to debunk stuff in a way that they're like showing you, oh, this is what happened, not just Zach being like, oh, we saw these eyes down the path, there's no gate, there's no cages down there, but then they don't show us. Do you know what I mean? Like, they actively are trying to debunk stuff. So I grew up watching that, where I was like, okay, and for a while, obviously, I 100% totally believed everything that happened because I didn't really realize, you know, like it's yeah. So, but that seems a lot more authentic to me, and I've watched so many at this point, that this is just like, there was never a time that I was watching Ghost Adventures and thinking this is the real deal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this has always just been like a goofy goof.
Yeah, it's
me,
like,
but,
just
yeah.
I think the problem is like, there's never an episode where they're just like, yeah, well, you know, nothing happened. Like, it's just every episode, like, oh, we've got we get talked to every time with the spirit box, or like,
yeah,
we've seen apparitions every single time, and it's like, come on. Like, if there were just 3 episodes a season where they were just like, yeah, we win, and like, there's just nothing, like, nothing happened, I would be like, okay, well, I kind of believe it more than just the fact that every goddamn place you go to is
the most
haunted and you get possessed, and the bald camera guy freaks the fuck out.
Yeah, I think that there were some in the very beginning, but we're like, 17 episodes in now, so like that's long gone. Any credibility that I would have given them, is obviously maybe the first couple seasons when it was kind of more less of a spectacle. There were some episodes where kind of like nothing really happened, but then they just got momentum and they kept rolling with it, buddy.
Right.
Like, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, the shadow, the picture of the shadow entity, whatever, during the broad daylight above the barn. Okay, so this is obviously, if you watched Tiger King, this is by far the most traumatic thing that happened, because we eventually saw this happen in the documentary via camera, and it was very sad, where they start talking about Joe's husband, Travis, who accidentally shot himself in the head, and he died, obviously. This was like such a traumatic thing that happened to everybody. Everybody loves Travis. Obviously,
how was this on camera? Like,
because he was in the back room of the gift shop, and there was like surveillance cameras.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was like, because like, again, like I said, I watched Tiger King, but I wondered if it was like when you watch that Mother God documentary where they're just filming fucking everything, where I was like, did Joe Exotic just like film everything for some reason?
No. Well, there is a lot of home video of him, but no, this was like just like a regular surveillance video. I do not recommend anybody watch it. Obviously, it's very traumatic. And so this is where, like, the thing that I don't agree with about Ghost Adventures, and like, he doesn't do this as bad as he used to, but they really kind of take advantage of any kind of factual current death that's happened on the property in kind of a way that is disrespectful to me. So they're like talking, so of course, like, and it makes sense, obviously, right? Like, if they've had this really traumatic death that happened, everybody who's still working there, everybody that they're interviewing knew Travis, loved Travis. He was a big presence. And so, of course, they're going to kind of like play into that, right? By like trying to contact him or whatever. I just feel some of the stuff that they do is disrespectful. Like Zach going up and like touching the bullet hole in the wall. Like, please. That's really not necessary. Just like shit like that, like, but whatever.
You could tell it went through here and hit this metal, and it was coming from this trajectory.
Yeah,
and I was
sir.
like, all right, CSI.
Enough, please. like literally, actually.
This episode very specifically felt like more exploitive than I feel like probably the other ones are, and I don't know if that's maybe because like the story they're following is more current than like most of them probably are.
Well, and so that's why they did another special of the Cecil Hotel, which is the one that hotel is based off of
the water tower or whatever.
Yeah. And I felt, because again, that is like a more current, it didn't happen super currently, but it stayed in the media, and it's like become like a folktale at this point, kind of. And then there was like more information coming out about what actually happened, and then Netflix did that documentary. So then they did the Cecil Hotel, and I feel that one is extremely disrespectful, which is why I said I do not want to do it.
Well, I'm gonna watch it either way.
You can watch it. That's fine. I just have like really specific feelings about Elisa Lam's case that I just feel like I can't. Like it was hard for me to watch, even from like here's these goofy guys standpoint. Like I just felt it very disrespectful. Anyways, so
we could like double that with another episode, and I'll just like talk about watching it at the end or whatever. Because like I'm like, that's like one of the true crime cases that I'm always sort of like fascinated by. Because it's like an insane story, but I also like don't want to watch like what I assume there's probably like a fucking 12 episode Netflix documentary about and shit.
Yeah. Okay, so then this is when they meet Alan, who is allegedly the man that Joe hired to kill Carol Baskins, which is ultimately like one of the things he went to jail for. He's still just chilling on the property. I was like, okay.
Is this the same guy that later is like covered in like blood and shit?
No.
That guy is my favorite guy in the show.
This is the guy that's in bed.
He asked Zach if he wants to lick his shirt.
That was shoot. Well, I didn't write down that guy's name.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Eric. Well, whatever. Okay, so this is the one where Zach like very quietly like walks up, knocks on the door, and runs. And then the guy answers, and he's like, "Hey, like I want to talk to you." And he's like, "Yeah, all right, that'd be fine." Zach goes around the corner for some reason, goes around the corner of the trailer to get his mask when everything has to stop because he heard somebody talking in his ear. So basically he's been interviewing everybody about what they think is going on here. He asks everybody if they think Travis's spirit is still here, and they're like, yes, absolutely. Here's this thing that happened. Travis used to always come up to my trailer and knock on the window at night to like scare me or get my attention or whatever, and that's still happening. The lights will go off and on, just like these like little they said Travis was like a jokester and he used to play little like pranks on people, and like that stuff is still happening, and they all very much believe that it's Travis. This is when they go to the office, which is what I was talking about earlier, where Zach's like sticking his finger in the hole in the wall for whatever reason. They're interviewing this guy, Eric, I think his name is, this is your guy, about Joe Exotic's house. And he's like, oh, I don't go there anymore. It's just got like a bad feeling about it. I'll show it to you, though. I'm confused because they go into this house and it is absolutely trashed. It is like there's trash everywhere. There's poop everywhere. There's like holes throughout it. It doesn't look like anybody's lived in this recently. This looks like this house has been abandoned for like 10 years. And he's just like, well, the horses keep getting in and out of it. And I was like, huh? The horses are just walking through the front door and taking big old shits. Okay, this is pretty much the best part. If you're wanting to be goofy, funny, this is the best part of the documentary. They go inside, they're looking around. Aaron says that he feels an unwelcoming presence, and he becomes overwhelmed by his feelings. Zach delivers this ominous monologue about how the land is evil. There's like this evil stigma of all of this stuff that's been happening. And he's like going on and on. This is immediately when he finds and touches a penis pump in a drawer.
Picks up for some reason and then says there was something white in the bottom of it.
So he says, he opens the drawer. I'm like not even kidding you. This was like such a whiplashing scene because he's like, the evil permeates the ground. And he's going on and he's just like, oh, look, what's that? Picks it up. Oh, he says it's a penis pump first. Then he picks it up. Jay says, okay, the 4 guys that are a part of actual Ghost Adventure are Aaron, Zach, obviously, Aaron, who is the bald guy, and then there's Billy and Jay, and they're like the 2 guys that are normally like the camera guys, or they're at Nerve Center, which is what they call like where they set up the computers or whatever. So they always like pair off, right? And so this is just Zach and Jay. Jay said, "Why'd you pick it up?" And Zach goes, "I don't know." They run out of the house to tell all of the other guys that Zach not only found a penis pump, but picked it up and there was white stuff in the bottom. All of them giggle as Zach pretends to throw up.
Incredible TV.
Like, I'm like, what is happening here?
They know how to make quality programming. It's so
my question
stupid.
is, if you... This is what I want to know.
Why the fuck does he not have gloves on at all times when he's going in these places?
Good question. My other question is, why did you leave that scene in... Like, if you are trying to make people think that you're, like, a credible ghost hunter, why are you leaving in scenes where you're picking up penis pumps and then throwing up outside? Like, that just seems really weird to me. Like, I could not believe, when I was, like, watching this live, I could not believe this was happening to me. Like...
I mean, that's what the entire episode should have been. They should have taken the penis pump back, done fucking...
Why didn't they do a seance with the penis pump?
Yeah, for real. Put that shit in the middle of some candles.
Okay, so this is where we get introduced to the back 40, which is the area where they bring in the animal meat to feed the tigers. It is vile. I forgot about this, and I felt personally victimized by the fact that they kept showing us maggots. And at one point, when the show goes away to commercial and then comes back, there's like a thing that's like, the views stated in this program do not reflect
oh my God,
the
every
whatever the fuck
commercial break.
And it was just like a cow remains with like maggots everywhere, and I was like, why is this happening to me?
I assume that happened every commercial break on the show.
Not usually.
Or that they put like the I assume they use that footage of like maggots all the time for some reason.
I've never before. They very clearly filmed the maggots at the zoo, because they show us like parts of the back 40 where like there's just like mountains of maggots. Blech. Okay, so the claims that people are saying they see in the back 40 is balls of light that turn green and blue. Okay. Then we get the story about how there were 2 activists who were trying to climb in the back of the zoo to like free the tigers or whatever, but 2 of the park people were there and saw the guys and basically shot and killed them and then burned their bodies.
Out of everything in this this episode, the one thing I believe is that they absolutely killed protesters back there.
Sure. I want to reiterate that every single time they talk about anything in the show, Zach tells us probably 4 times that it's all alleged. It
felt so much like he was like, please, God, don't sue us.
This scene specifically was very funny to me because he said, he looks right at the camera and points, and he said, the story we're about to tell is alleged, so we're going to tell the story without any names involved. Understood? Understood, and he like points to every single camera. God love him, he is trying everything to not get sued, and I don't blame him. This to me is the other most insane shot in the entire documentary, which is that Zach is talking about all of the stuff that happened on the land, and he says, is there a dark force controlling those who work on the land? Slam cut to the back of a horse full force pissing inside the house.
The worst CGI animated horse.
I was so confused. It was like a geyser of pee erupting from the back of this horse inside of Joe Exotic's house. And I was like...
All of the top reviews on Letterboxd have to do with that horse. It's such a fucking baffling choice. I don't understand.
That's what I'm saying. Who is making these choices, Travel Channel? Like, who's the editor here that was like, this will be great? It's really insane.
Baffling.
Yeah. Okay. This is when Zach decides that he's going to call in a forensics team to bring in a bunch of cadaver dogs. And this is a really long scene, obviously, because they're talking about... They're, like, interviewing the handlers, and they're talking about, like, the accuracy... And they're basically just talking about how cadaver dogs work, right? And they're showing the cadaver dogs go everywhere. And the long and short of it is that the dogs alert to a area that they find out used to be an alligator pit. And this alligator pit continues to be the site of a lot of questions, essentially. So day 2, we're finally into the investigation. So this was like almost half of the show at this point, was just them like talking to people. So that we're finally going to investigate. Okay. Obviously this is a lot of us watching them walk around and saying bullshit. So I've kind of condensed this part of it. Zach and Aaron go to introduce themselves to Travis's spirit. And Zach gets a EMF spike. So an EMF is electromagnetic field. And the idea behind that is that essentially a spirit contains they're able to like create a spike, like electricity, essentially, in areas where there aren't any. So he gets a spike, and so he thinks that means that Travis's spirit is there and is talking to him in the office, which is weird to me because like later it happens again in Joe Exotic's house, which they say has no power running to it anymore. Again, that's all stuff we cannot confirm, right? We don't know. That's the first thing that happens, and they're like, woohoo! Zach is like so excited about this. They spend a whole time talking about this experiment where they basically laid a bunch of tubes all over the property. And the idea is that they're basically trying to see if they can pull, like, they can get EVPs to travel through the pipes, which EVP is just like voices, them hearing voices, right? It can happen through a recorder. They're trying to see if one will travel through water. So they've like set up this PVC pipe situation where they've put like a recorder in the pipe, and then they're like, no sound can get in, no sound can get out, which again, how do we know this? Right. We don't know that the PVC is like, no one's, whatever. They spend a lot of time on this experiment, and essentially later on in the show, they show us their EVP evidence, which is essentially nothing. There's literally one sample where I heard anything at all, and again, I don't actually know if that wasn't just a person standing by the pipe talking. We don't know that. There's no proof, right? So that's it. That's it for that. This is when they see the glowing eyes, which we can see on camera. They assure us that it's not an animal. They're telling us that in person, they can see the lights glow. They can see the eyes glowing. So it's not the device making it glow. They're just independently glowing eyeballs that disappear. And Zach says, that's up the path. There's no cages there. Again, we don't know. They just assure us it's not animals. Yeah. Billy gets full body chills, from seeing a mist.
It happens.
Okay. Okay, so this is when Zach and Aaron go into Joe's house. They're in the kitchen. Zach starts to feel panicky as a light anomaly enters him.
What a
Let me
phrase.
just tell you something. Let me just explain something to you. A light anomaly is what they are calling what ghost hunters would previously call orbs, which are pretty much totally debunked. Like, they are trying to say that orbs are like little spirits floating around. It's almost always a bug. You can tell me however many times you want that it's not a bug. It pretty much almost always is. I have seen, quote-unquote, evidence of some that look different, but, like, a quote-unquote an orb when you see one. They're calling it a light anomaly, and that's what it is, whatever. Zach feels panicky because of it. The boys get feeling so overwhelmed and oppressive in the house that they have to leave to breathe outside for a little bit. Zach hears two people talking. Right? Then he goes back into the house. He hears two people talking, and he's freaking out about that. So he brings out the EMF again, gets another spike, absolutely freaks out over him getting another EMF spike. This is when he tells us that supposedly there's no power in the house, so there should not be any EMF being detected at all. And he tells us, it's the same kind of spike I got earlier when I was talking to Travis. They show us side by side. It's not the same, but fine. Zach gets emotional, quote unquote emotional, for no reason, and starts saying, I'm sorry. They hear a bang.
Just being a middle-aged man.
I mean, honestly. They hear a bang, and out of who knows where. This is where they get out the SLS machine. They use this a lot. And essentially what an SLS machine is if you've ever played or used an Xbox Kinect, which is like the device that you would use to play like a dancing game. It's the thing that they use in Paranormal Activity where it like shoots out the grid or whatever. And essentially what they're saying it does is detects what they're calling anomalies, which is like they're saying that they're using it to detect spirits. And so basically what they'll do is they'll be holding it and they'll be showing like a hallway, and then an anomaly will appear which will look like a stick person, and they're trying to say, oh my god, that's a spirit. It's absolutely not. The science behind it is completely bullshit, because the whole point of the SLS is to map human bodies. It's supposed to be stable completely, and they're holding it and moving it around. So the machine is just doing its job of trying to like make sense of shapes to create a person. So it's completely 100% fake. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah,
anyway.
It was like a thing where I was like, this is the one where like, I was just like, I know there's like a science behind this that I know they're not using in a correct way.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly it, right? He gets out the SLS, and so wherever he heard the bang, he points the SLS. They're saying that they see you do see the stick figure, like you do see them on there, but it's just like it says anomaly detected. It's literally an anomaly, like it's not real, right? But whatever. They say that they see the spirit pointing up into with
a foot too. The way this fucking thing moves is so crazy.
Yeah, totally legit though, right?
Yeah.
So they say that they see him pointing up they think this is Travis, by the way. See that he's pointing up into a closet. So Zach goes digging around in the top of the closet, ends up pulling out a hat that used to belong to Travis. And they're like, oh my god, dude, oh my god,
yeah,
oh my god. Screaming, fucking, oh my god. So then they take the hat into the living room and put it on a chair next to a cigarette. They use the SLS again and ask Travis to reappear. And what do you know? He does. The other tip-off for the SLS is that I don't know that I've ever seen anybody use it and have them not capture something, which to me, immediately bullshit, right?
Yeah, you're not gonna put that on TV. That's boring.
Well, so they're like, oh my god, Travis, yeah, he's here, woo, they're excited, whatever, right? Zach also, like, I will say, in the regular episodes, I feel like they use the spirit box a lot. They don't really use it a lot in this episode, but again, it's probably because they didn't really get anything. Earlier, they claim that they got somebody saying, give it to him, and somehow Zach is saying that earlier EMF that they got, or EVP, sorry, it was Travis, and he's like, this all concludes in a crazy way, and I'm like, it's not correlated at all. What are you talking about? Crazy. I don't know. So then, yeah, okay. The next day, day 3, the police come and search the areas where the cadaver dogs had previously hit because, the department, like, talked to the police. So, like, the police, whatever the equivalent of the FBI is for the state that they're in, come, and they're all doing this, like, extensive searching during the day. And eventually the police just say that they're convinced there's nothing there. The women who are, like, the cadaver dog trainers are, like, so embarrassed and besides themselves. Like, they absolutely cannot believe that no bodies have been found. Because they're like, well, can we bring the dogs back in? Like, they're trying to, like, come up with any reason as to why the police... They end up draining that alligator pond and, like, digging up in it, and they don't find anything. And they're like, okay, well, that's really weird. The dog's alerted. Like, there's just, like, so many factors going on here, right? But the police are just like, yeah, you can come back in here, but we didn't find anything. And they're like, oh, you don't want to stay for the dogs coming back in? And the police are like, no, we don't want to. Knock yourself out. Call us if you find anything, right?
Yeah, do our work for us.
So the cadaver dogs do come back out. They have 4 other dogs hit on the same spot. But, like, the thing is, regardless of whether the body is still there, if a body had been there for any amount of time at all and moved, the dog still hit on it, I'm pretty sure. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like this aspect of it. I was just like, I part of me was like, I don't know, the dogs are sensing something, but I don't know. And also, I 100% believe that, like, the cops would just be like, this case is done, go away, we don't care anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really any transparency about, like, the time that elapsed during this or anything either, right? They just, like, show the cops coming, asking where the dogs hit, and then digging, and then being like, peace out. So, like, who the fuck even knows? Okay, so this is the last night of investigation, right? This is wild. They start doing their investigation, and the guy, Eric, that you like, just walks up with a huge fucking snake in his hand that immediately bites him, and he's bleeding all over the place. And Zach's like, the one thing that scares me more than demons, a snake. And the guy's just like, hey guys, and he's like bleeding all over the fucking place from a snake bite. And I was like, what is going on here? This is the guy, like, he's interviewing him, and he's got just, like, very obviously mud. Like, they were fucking digging out an alligator pit. Zach's like, what's on your shirt? And he's like, mud, tiger piss, tiger cum, this, that, and the other. Want to lick it? And Zach looks just
scandalized.
Literally so scandalized. And everyone starts, like, laughing at him or whatever. He seems fine after having bitten viciously by the snake, though. He's just, like, laughing it off. I was like, all right, guy. Zach and Jay ride back on a golf cart to the back 40. Jay feels a tug on his shirt. They hear a growl. But, you know, there's no tigers out there, so it's a real growl. Don't worry about it. But then Zach does postulate that it could be one of the tigers, of the many tigers that Joe Exotic had killed. So, a tiger ghost, I guess. They also, like, I don't know, there's a truck back there, and Zach's like, what is that blood? And he, like, freaks out over that. And then they're like, oh, a storm's coming, so they've got to, like, zip back in. Before they go, though, they do a spirit box session. This is supposedly the area where the 2 protesters were killed, and they do a spirit box section where basically the information that they find out is that 2 people died there by fire and are buried there. And they're like, oh, this gives credibility to the story about the protesters. And I'm like,
sure.
They didn't die by fire, though. They got shot.
Yeah, they used a flamethrower
on them. He's excited about that, right? They're freaking the fuck out, of course. Then they have to come back in because there's like a terrible thunderstorm. This is kind of like such a weird way to end this investigation. It's Aaron and Billy. They had gotten permission from Alan, who was the hitman, right, to go into to do like investigating in his trailer, and the door is wide open. So they're like, okay, cool, he left the door open for us. So they start investigating. Alan's just in bed sleeping.
Insane.
Which seems really crazy to me when you live on an exotic zoo. Like, did you see the size of that snake?
Yeah.
And you're just, like, leaving your front door open? I guess he was just like, well, you can come in and investigate, but I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
Like, I literally
really
just assumed they, like, put all of them up in, like, a hotel or something, you know?
You would think so, but it's very weird. So they go in and start investigating, just kind of, like, looking around or whatever. They walk into the bedroom, and, like I said, Alan's in bed. He rolls over. Aaron freaks the fuck out and runs full force out of the thing because he thinks it was a tiger. The guy had, like, tiger-striped bed sheets or something, and he's like, oh, I thought it was a tiger! Okay.
I mean, fair.
They go back inside, and he's like, I don't know, like, let's just keep investigating, and if he wakes up, we'll just be like, I don't know, like, it's just us, we're, like, wearing vests and stuff. But then they start doing the spirit box, and, like, if you've never watched anything with the spirit box, it's really loud, because essentially it's a device that continuously switches through radio frequencies, and the thought is that the ghosts or spirits or whatever can, like, use that to, like, stop it on a channel to string together words, right? And so it's constantly signaling through static, so it's like, and they're just, like, standing in this guy's house at night while he's sleeping, like, blasting this fucking spirit box. Whatever. Then they use this other one. I don't specifically remember what they call this one, but it's kind of like the same thing as a spirit box, but it is a box that's pre-programmed with, like, words. So the idea is that you can be like, hi, is anyone here with us? And then they can use it to say, like, yes, and then yes will show up on the screen, or whatever. And the box says to them, Satan shining.
This is so stupid.
So then Zach, even though Zach's not there, Zach's voiceover goes on a monologue about Lucifer and the Bible and stuff, and they're talking about how they used to call him the Shining One or something. So are they talking about the devil? And then earlier they got a spirit box of somebody saying David. David's also biblical. And that's why I'm like, what are you talking about, sir?
They don't know.
This is nothing. So then they're doing one last EVP session, and Zach is trying to talk to Travis again, and it's just like, hey, this is a different session where, so there's, like, all these different methods, right? This is just one where you hold a recorder and record into the air. You're saying stuff like, hey, Travis, are you here? Do you want us to leave? Do you miss being alive? Or, like, whatever the fucking weird shit that they say, right? Then they listen back onto the recorder to see if the recorder has picked up any voices that they haven't heard. And they pick up one that I love so much, because he's basically like, when I asked Travis, are you here? We got a recording of a voice saying, and then they play it, and it's somebody going, what up? I would fucking love to get an EVP of me being like, hey, is anybody here with us? And then they're just like, what up? And, like, normally I feel like they would try and connect us to the actual person and be like, is this something he would say? Like, do you have videos of how he talked? They just like leave it at what up, because that's like essentially the end of the episode. Like it like fades to black and then comes back in and says 14 days later, and Zach is just like talking to one of the cadaver dog trainers, and they're basically saying like, we feel like the cops missed something. The dogs, they want to go back to the alligator pit, and this is where she says that like 4 of the dogs hit on the alligator pit, so they're pretty sure that something's still there, and then it just ends.
Yeah, it's the most like anticlimactic ending.
And you know what, like, that happens a lot on the show. Like with Ghost Hunters, it's different because they go talk to the people, do the investigation, then they all sit down together.
Yeah, and like go like that's how like Destination Truth would do. Is they would go over what they found, and
they would show them, right. But because this is, they don't give a shit about getting answers. They're just like doing it for the spectacle of it, whatever. It literally just like ends. There's no even like outro monologue from Zach being like, our time at the zoo, blah blah blah. It just like literally ends. And I was like, okay, well, there you go. So I would say I don't think that Joe Exotic Zoo is haunted. It would be my takeaway, but you know,
I don't know. That back 40 where they found a truck with some brown liquid.
That is so gross. I mean, I can understand.
Never open to see what it is.
Oh no, I don't blame him either for not doing that. I very much feel like the people who were there that are saying like there's a weird feeling about it. Like, how couldn't there be? Like, not only just all of the the human part of it, where it was like Joe and like his husband's this, that, and the other were just like so abusive. Like, there's a part where they're going through Joe Exotic's house, and there's like literally you can see in a door like a punch where someone just like fucking punched the door, a hole in the door and shit like that. Zach, of course, has to like put his fist in there, but it's just like, and that plus the animals and like the mistreatment of the animals and all that shit. Like, how could it not feel shitty to be there? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I have to say, didn't really see any evidence that captivated me, so to speak.
Yeah.
But...
you want to talk about the other thing we watched?
Yeah, marinating on it more, I'm absolutely positive that you made me watch it at some point. I
may have like told you about it, and you may have been like, "I'll like watch this."
Yeah, I think I literally did, because it's like 25 minutes or whatever. It is so delightful. It is hilarious.
So I had Katie watch the episode of New York Goes to Work, the Tiffany Pollard show, where she goes ghost hunting. Incredible. The loudest person in the world on a fucking ghost adventure.
I would say definitely the worst person. Like, whoever was picking the job.
So the premise of the show was that, like, I think there's 8 episodes, and fans voted on what jobs she should have to go do. And so there's one she goes ghost hunting. There's one where she has to be like a kid's party clown. One's like fast food work. I remember there's one she's like works on like I want to say pig farm. I know it's some kind of farm, but I want to say like pigs. And it's like all like just jobs like that. I can't remember like all of them offhand. And like the idea is, if she does a good enough job getting whatever task done, she'll win $10,000 each episode. And I think there's only like 3 that she doesn't get it, and I feel like mostly they just like feel sorry for her. And most of them they give it to her.
Yeah.
The fast food one she doesn't get, and it's so funny because she's so fucking bad at being like a fast food worker.
I feel she's not very good at a lot of things, it seems like.
Well, like, she's also like, so this was like probably like the peak of her popularity, and she very much understood the character she was supposed to be playing. And so like she's very overly dramatic and shit, and like knows what she's doing. And so like you know, I watch it through that prism where I'm like, all right, she's clearly hamming this up, and to like, because like she goes off the rails the minute they're like, we're not going to give you the money. In like any episode that she doesn't get it, she just starts cursing everyone out. It's so funny.
And I love that, like, she definitely, like, always expects to get it. And this, like, okay, so in this episode where she's supposed to be doing the job that is a ghost hunting, they pull up outside the Queen Mary, which is a very notorious haunted ship. There's even a what's it called, Unsolved Mysteries episode about the Queen Mary. Like, it's notorious, right? And they pull up and she sees that like the ghost hunters are like standing there waiting for her, and she's immediately so pissed about, she's like, I'm absolutely not going to be doing this like ghost hunting thing or whatever. And she is immediately freaking out because she's like, oh, I see a woman in the window. And they're like, that's a real person. This is a hotel. And she's just like, they get in there and she's immediately like, oh my god, I can feel them. It smells of death. And she just is like, every single time she sees a person, she freaks out.
She like,
it is insane.
I love how she like every time, like the minute she sits down to do like some sort of session, she's like, I can feel breathing on me, and gets up and fucking flees the room.
Yeah, it's insane. So like essentially they have like different areas that so she has to like complete certain tasks, and then they rate her to see if like she's done the job well enough to get this like $10,000 or whatever. She immediately breaks a piece of equipment, which is pretty bad because it's like usually people are doing this as like a hobby, and the equipment, it can be really expensive. So she's like immediately breaks something. The guy hates her. The guy who's like has to do like the tiebreaker, like very obviously hates her also. It's just like so funny because they're trying to like talk. There's like a woman that's there also who is being so patient. I don't know how they weren't all like, they do laugh at her obviously.
Oh my god, I would be like, this is the greatest day of my job ever.
Right. For the most part, they're very like serious about about it, and they're like, the woman's just like, okay, calm down, it's fine. But like, they're in this like pool area where it's like very famously a little girl like drowned in the pool or something, so they're like trying to talk to the spirit, and she's like trying to do dowsing rods, and she's just like screaming. She's like, they're working, she's here. They're just like screaming.
Doesn't she ask, are you mad at me?
Okay, so then there's like this other entity who supposedly got like burned up in the boiler room or something like that. And so they're trying to like, the guy's like doing like a heat like sensor, whatever, I forget what it's called, but he's like, oh, the heat up there registry is like really high or whatever. And she's like, why, is he mad at me? Are you mad at me, Henry? Anyway, she's just like screaming the entire time, and they try to do a seance, and she's like, I'm not doing a seance, I'm a Christian. And they're like, okay, you have to do this for the job or whatever. So this is when they're trying to like talk to the spirits, whatever, and she's saying she feels something in the air, and she's like jumping on people's laps and all this shit. It's just like really ridiculous. She does say something that I found so funny though. So they're like, okay, your last task is that I'm gonna send you down here like in the dark by yourself or whatever. She's like, oh my god, why are you doing this to me? Why do you hate me? Whatever. So they like clip a camera on her, and it's like the most unflattering angle ever, and she says ghost hunting is not cute, which I found so funny because like it's very true. Nobody looks good in like the night vision camera and like the, you know, like front facing camera or whatever. I just found it like so funny that she's like, this isn't even cute. So she gets up there, she's just like literally screaming and flailing and running all the time. So then they do kind of like a breakdown where the four people are talking to the camera, like, you know, like, we were trying to take EVPs, which you have to be really quiet for, and she insisted on screaming in my ear. And they're like kind of giving the lowdown as she's like walking up to meet them to see if she like gets the money. And she said something like, I've been risking my life all night. And I was like, nothing happened. And then obviously they were just like, well, I had so much fun, but you're pretty much the worst at ghost hunting, so sorry, you fail. And she's really upset. And I was like, there's absolutely no way she thought she did a good job.
It's so funny.
It was very funny. It is a funny, quick little, like, it was it like 25 minutes?
Yeah, it's like a regular, like, 30-minute episode.
And you know, normally for me, I don't like yelling, but like she just was so funny that like the stuff she was saying, I highly recommend.
That whole show is like my favorite thing that like from that sort of VH1 reality TV era, because she's like so unhinged in every episode. Like I was sending you Snapchats of like the clown one where she has to be a party clown, and like. At some point, like they're like the number one rule is you cannot like manhandle a child, and this kid gets up and like she like immediately has had it with him, and she like he sits in the chair and he's just like giving her sass, and she like picks him up and throws him out of the chair and goes to like storm off. Shit, it's so funny. She's the best. Have you ever seen, I don't know how this, like, if this would have ever, like, come across your feed, but there's, like, some reality show from the last, like, 2 years called House of Villains. It's just, like, a bunch of reality TV villains, like, doing whatever. I haven't actually seen it, but there's a clip of her just fucking chewing out Omarosa from, The Apprentice or whatever, and for, like, being friends with Trump. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I'm going to see if it'll play. Why is there no volume?
The original HBI mother fee. And I deserve my spot here in the House of Villains. So I need y'all to keep me here. I don't want a sympathy vote. I don't need a sympathy vote. But I need y'all to understand the pecking order.
So you don't want my sympathy vote? Is that what you're saying? I need to hear it, because I need to know. You just said in front of all these people that you did not want my vote.
Since I already said that, Omarosa, may I also say that I find you to be a sucking, guzzling Republican. Oh, yo! And I sleep better at night knowing that you're not in the White House.
Wow. And ladies and gentlemen, this I received from the legend. But you'll be saying those things at your house tonight.
I might need a second. I'm not gonna lie. I might need a second. Here we go.
I feel much better sleeping at night knowing you are no longer in the White House. What a queen. Fuck Omarosa. Alright, yeah. So we watched some dumb ghost hunting shit.
I love it so much.
Alright. What have you watched in the last fucking 2 months that you haven't been here?
I hate to say it, but I don't think I watched anything.
To be fair, one of the weeks you were helping someone move.
Yeah, helping someone move, so I had to watch like whatever reality thing that they were watching, which was mostly like random seasons of Survivor. And then when I got home, I got deathly sick, so anything I watched was pretty much just like a comfort rewatch. And then I watched a few like documentary, like true crime the only thing that I've really been keeping up with is like the Gypsy Rose stuff. So I watched, this might be something different, but I think they're calling it Love After Lockup.
No, isn't that like, I think that's like a show, isn't it?
Yeah, so I watched, they did like a Lifetime prison confessions of Gypsy Rose, and now they're doing Love After Lockup, which is following her outside of it. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called.
I know there's a show that's like something Love Lockup. I don't know if it's after. Yeah, Love After Lockup.
Life After Lockup, not Love. Love After Lockup is something different. Okay, yeah, well, whatever. That's like essentially the only thing that I've been keeping up with right now, because it is a train wreck, obviously. Yeah, I really think that's it.
Pretty much the only thing I've watched since Kit and I recorded last is I caught up on like the on cinema stuff that I hadn't seen. So I hadn't watched this year's Oscar special yet, and then there was like some shit from that like followed it that's come out. The Oscar special this year is incredible, 5 stars. Like that show has become so fucking unhinged, and like Tim Heidecker and Greg Turkington might be the best at the like uncomfortable moment humor, because like every like it started out as like a podcast, and then turned into like this, you know, like they do like these like 11 to like 20-minute episodes that were on like Adult Swim, where they were like rating movies, that started to like slowly build like a storyline and became this bigger thing or whatever. And now they're like 11 years in, and it's just this like insane escalation of shit that like, but like the Oscar specials, it's like everyone, Tim Heidecker, his, you know, fictional version of himself in it, always gets drunk and just like creates a scene, and like all of this shit happens. It's just like everything in it, like especially anymore, like at the start, you know it's going to escalate into something, and you're just kind of like on edge waiting for it to happen. And they're just like, it's so uncomfortable but like so funny at the same time. And I don't know, the this year's Oscar special was like pretty incredible. And then this won't make any sense unless you've watched any of it, or like watched all of it, but there's like an entire storyline where like I've talked about it on here, where there's like a 4-hour thing they did that was like the trial of Tim Heidecker, that is like an entire 4-hour essentially like court TV mockumentary thing they did. And like he ends up like getting off for this crime he 100% committed, because there's like one juror that was like a holdout, and so it was like a I can't think of the term when they don't reach like a unanimous verdict, like a
like a steal.
So like for whatever, you know, the case gets thrown out, and then he starts dating that juror, and like they get married and shit, and like so at some point they break up, and then there's a storyline in the current season of On Cinema, the actual like movie review show, where somebody mentioned something about like the San Bernardino like DA is like looking into his case again or something. And so like someone shows up at her house and like accidentally shoots and kills her son, and then somehow her and Tim like reconnect because of it. And like like the way it's played out, I thought it was supposed to be that like it's clear that he was the one that did it. But like there's like stuff that follows this On Cinema Oscar special that like I'm not sure where they're going with it yet. But so they have reconnected and are like possibly engaged again, and they released a 26-minute special that's like Tim and Tony's Guide to Erotic Massage. That's like one of the most unhinged and weird things I've ever watched. It's so funny. And it's like just them talking about their 7 steps to what makes like a good erotic massage, but then they have like these models in their place, like doing like dramatic reenactments of it. It's so weird, but it's so funny. It's, I don't know, it's fucking, I like to let it like some of it like build up so I can just like binge through like some things on it. But I'm dying for a new season now. I need, like, at some point I need to actually like watch the live Oscar special they do, because like I think they film, maybe not, I don't know, it seems like that would be too much, but it almost feels like they actually film it live during the Oscars. Yeah, I don't know, they kind of, I guess they have to, because like they'll read like stuff that won awards while it's happening. I don't know, it's weird, but that's pretty much all I've watched since we did Hard Rock Zombies a couple days ago. I don't. Oh no, I've just been watching Hotel Hell. Is the other thing I've been watching.
Yeah,
fucking
of course.
Perfect. The most a show that makes me not want to stay anywhere ever.
I mean, I already am grossed out by hotels, so I can't even imagine how this is going to... Like, even the restaurant, I'm like, oh my god, how many restaurants have I been to where this has happened, you know?
Yeah, probably a lot. The hotel
Yeah, I
one,
know.
there's things in it where, like, he'll do, like, blacklight on, like, stuff. And I'm like, this is clearly just, like, it's gross, but I'm like, this is sweat. You're making it seem like there's cum everywhere, but I'm like, this is clearly just, like, sweat.
Right, I feel like that's the implication, and they don't say otherwise, so,
But
yeah.
then there's also things where he'll, like, there's, like, weird spots on, like, the lampshade and shit, and I'm like, I don't even want to know.
Well, right, yeah.
There's, like, an episode, though, where he goes to, like, some small, like, Rhode Island fucking historic town or some shit, where it's, like, all of the buildings are these, like, nice, old, like, stone buildings. Everything looks incredible. And he goes to this lady who opened, like, a B&B. And, like, from the outside, everything looks fucking amazing. And then they go inside, and there's like, this old hippie woman who's, like, a hoarder. So every room, the closet and, like, drawers of every room is just filled with her shit, so you can't use any of it.
That's really weird for, like, specifically a bed and breakfast.
Well,
like,
she lives there. So,
Yeah.
so many of these, the people that own it live there because they're so fucking bad at this and in debt that they've, like, lost their houses. And so they're just, like, living in the hotels. But, like, there's, like, like, the woman is, like, buying rotisserie chickens from the grocery store, like, already cooked rotisserie chickens, and freezing them for, like, up to 6 months to, like, serve.
yeah, that's so
And
gross.
I'm like, this is horrendous. There's, like, a hole in the wall that he finds that is, like, filled with, like, a scarf and then just, like, a postcard taped over it to, like, cover the hole that leads to the outside. It's fucking, it's insane.
Yikes.
Alright, do you have anything you want to shout out?
Not really. Oh, except did you see that they have made, I think it just came out today, a Kite Man series?
I did, but I forget how I saw it. I think wait, who does the voice of Kite Man? That might be...
I don't remember that, actually.
Let's see. I saw something, I think it was like, I talked about it. Oh, that's right, yeah, so I talked about it like the episode Kit, Chris, and I did. Caitlin was watching this like Netflix documentary on like queer stand-up comedy. And there's a comedian that's in it named James Adomian that I'm like, I think is like really funny, that I did not realize was like a gay comedian. And he does like a voice on it, and maybe he does Bane in Harley
perfect.
Quinn, and I think that's how I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know if this was like already out or not.
So, I saw the trailer.
Premiered today.
Yeah, I saw the trailer yesterday, and I was like, oh my god, that's hilarious. Kite Man is so funny in Harley Quinn. I was like, I'm in, totally. And then today I logged in to watch the Ghost Adventures, and it was like the season, and I was like, oh, that was a weird coincidence. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're doing like releasing it episode by episode, like Harley Quinn. But I was like, I had no idea that it was happening. It's called Kite Man. Hell yeah, I'm extremely into it. He's so funny.
On Wikipedia, it's only saying there's 2 episodes, so maybe it's just like this little like fun thing they did, sort of like that Valentine's Day special.
Yeah.
But I need to finish Harley Quinn, because what I've seen so far, it's so fucking funny. But
it's literally so funny. I didn't finish the newest season, so I need to do that also.
Oh man,
but
Keith David as Darkseid is like perfect casting.
yeah, I love it.
Especially like because I think my favorite Darkseid so far is in it's one of the Superman movies. Like a Supergirl is like the main. Let me see if I can figure out which one it was. What's his name? Who played Holt on Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Did him in it. And fuck, what movie was this? Let me see. Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. That's like, I think that he's been like my favorite Darkseid so far. His voice was so good for it.
Yeah.
Fuck's my shout out. I don't remember what it was last week. Let's see. All I've been doing is listening to podcasts. Fuck it. My shout out, Cal's Cowboys Audio Tree. Very good. Opening with Star Baby is one of the most insane choices. So yeah, go watch that. It's pretty fun. And if you are a Patreon member, you've probably heard me and Katie talk about how they're the best band. A bunch.
Did all three of us have them on
Kit, I don't think. Kit talked about how he thinks their
fair.
name is very funny, but they are
That's fair.
100%
That's fair.
not a Kit band.
I don't know why I thought for some reason they were, but then, and now that I think about it more, makes sense now. So.
Alright, I think the next episode is Kit, and I think Chris Redar is going to join us to talk about death metal zombies.
Yeah, I'm leaving again.
Yeah. But after that, I think there will be another Ghost Adventures episode.
Yes.
What are we going to do? Lake of Death next? Is that what it was called? Alright.
Lake of Death.
I might watch Cecil Hotel if I can fit it in.
Sure. Yeah, I have no desire to.
Yeah, I know like the general idea behind that story, and I watched the fucking American Horror Story episode about or season that's sort of
The hotel.
about that
Yeah.
hotel that has like nothing to do with that actual story. You know what Ghost Adventures needs to do if they want me to like believe them?
Yes.
I need Zach Baggins to film an episode where he does the elevator game.
Oh, well then you'll love
Oh,
Cecil
does he
Hotel
do it?
episode. Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Yeah, of course he does. Well, I don't know if he does it exactly, but they do talk about it.
Could you imagine if he just filmed that and it like something fucking
And he just like
just
disappeared.
disappeared? Or if we just got footage of hell or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I would love it.
Alright.
We offer our king, Zach Baggins, to you, Underworld.
Yeah, please. You can have him. If you would like to support us, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/IPSufferPodcast. I think because we'll be a couple episodes ahead based on how we're recording this week. I think probably the next time all three of us are together, we'll probably try to do the Omen bonus episode and then Showgirls, and then we'll be caught up on bonus shit.
Yeah.
So you got that to look forward to. Probably a long as fuck episode on the fucking stupid Omen franchise. You can follow us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. You can follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Ketchification of Blood. Follow Katie at Werewolfface. Join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can listen to my other podcast, AK Movie Club. Alright. I hope you get sprayed by tiger pee, but why?
Understand.
I hope Zach Baggins comes to your house and gets freaked out. That's what I hope. Just talks to you fucking weird and then gets scared by like a breeze.
He does that like squinty eye thing.
This fucking dramatic fucking voiceover is the most insane thing.
It's my favorite.